try something a little different. Instead of doing a video, I much rather do voice instead. Kind of helps me a little bit better with getting my thoughts out a lot clearly or a lot clearer without focusing on visuals or appearance. So, with that being said, the title of this recording is Nature or Nurture. And this derives from a Freudian argument on if people are the way that they are based on nurture, how they were raised, or nature, a product of their environment, or just who they are naturally, nature, natural, right? So I want to give my stance on the argument using astrology as my support. So nature or nurture, which is it that determines who a person will be? Well, my argument is that using astrology, that people are who they were meant to be. Not because of how they were raised, but they were raised the way that they were so that they would be who they are, or be who they are meant to be. And we can see this through astrology, right? Using a natal chart. And your natal chart, for those who may be new or may not be really familiar with what I'm speaking about. So your natal chart is a blueprint, is an imprint of what the sky looked like at the time that you were born, the date, the location, the exact time that you exited your mother's womb. At that time, the sun was in a particular place. The moon was in a particular place. Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, all of those planets, all the way to Pluto, were in certain places. Then you even have your asteroids like Lilith and Ceres and Chiron. You also have your, the moon nodes. There's a north node and there's a south node. So everything in the sky had a particular placement at the time that you were born. And since everything is everything, we are the stars above, right? We are merely, but that energy made manifest into form, right? So what the sky looked like at the time that you were will is the energy that you encompass. That's who you are, right? And your natal chart will pretty much tell you everything, right? It will show you types of situations you may experience. It will tell you the type of personality that you will have. It will even tell you how you will look, depending on what's in your first house, right? The first house is the house of your physical appearance, your body. So depending on what sign occupies that first house when you were born, and what planets are in that first house when you were born, determines what you will look like. So everything about you, the type of careers that best suit you, the type of relationships that best suit you, if you'll have children or not, all of this can be found in your natal chart. So with that being said, when your natal chart will tell you the type of upbringing you have or may experience, right? You may have a parent that is very emotionally detached, depending on where your Saturn is, right? Saturn's the father, and then the moon is the mother. So depending on where your Saturn or where your moon is, depending on what's going on in your fourth house. The fourth house is ruled by the moon, the mother. It is the sign of ruled by Cancer. Saturn, it rules the 10th house, Capricorn. So where is your Capricorn? What house is Capricorn occupying? What house is Cancer occupying? What's in your 10th house? What's in your 4th house? Where is Saturn and where is the moon? All of that will tell you what type of experiences that you would have with a father, mother, or authority figure. Saturn is also authority figures, right? And the moon, the 4th house, also rules your home. So what was your home environment like, or what will it be like? All of this can be found in your natal chart. So, for instance, like myself, okay? So, I'll use an example of what my childhood was like as far as the experiences I had in school and other classmates or friends or, social groups, right? So social groups rule is the 11th house. The 11th house is the house of Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So in my 11th house, I have Libra. Okay, Libra is the sign of justice. It is this, it is the scale. It is the balancing of the scales. It is what's fair, what's right, what's just. Okay, so I have that in my 11th house of friendships, close circles, the community. And in that house, I have Pluto. Pluto being the planet, Pluto rules Scorpio, right? It rules the 8th house. It is the planet of death and transformation. It is even the planet that is said to rule generations. We have like millennials and I'm just drawing a complete blank right now, but all those generations, right? Pluto and Capricorn generation. Then there's the Pluto and Sagittarius generation. There's Pluto rules a generation. So I have that there, in my 11th house of Libra, right? So with that being there, that produces, an energy of where you may change your friendship circles often. That's the death and rebirth, or transformation. It's also transformation. So constantly experiencing a shift or a change in inner circles and friendships. Since Pluto is also the ruler of Scorpio, I dealt with a lot of bullying growing up. And bullying within friend circles, people I thought were my friends, but later on weren't really my friends, and then later being bullied by friends, being bullied by classmates, being bullied by teachers, being bullied by a parent. I've experienced bullying throughout my lifetime. Even in my age now, I've still experienced bullying on certain levels, right? And I even still now experience my friend circles or close circles are always transforming. Like growing up, I moved quite a bit, right? My mother was in the military, and then she married somebody else that was in the military. So I lived in a total of about 5 different states, and I've gone to roughly about 4 different elementary schools. Okay. And so that led to me constantly changing friend circles or changing friends, like the type of people that I associated with. And then even when moving and settling down here where I'm at now in Georgia, the people that I hung out with compared through middle school, through high school, even through college, they were all very different people. At one point in time, I used to be quote unquote, the token black girl, right? Because there was a time where I hung out with just a group of white people and I was the only black girl. Or there was a time where I hung out with a bunch of quote unquote the popular kids. Then there was a time where I hung out with a lot of people that were in the hood, used to hang out in trap houses and things like that. And then there's a time from my late high school to my early college years. I hung out with a lot of people who love to party and drink beer all the time. So there was a period where I was like drinking beer and getting intoxicated every day of the week, going, to parties and doing keg stands and beer pong and things like that. Then after that, still in college, there came a time where I got into the car scene and I was hanging out with a lot of car people, going to car shows and going to races. I used to even be a car model. Then transitioned from that. So over my lifetime, I've my people, people that I called friends or people that I hung out with, they were always changing and just so very different from the last group of people. These days I'm very, very introverted. So I don't really have any close friend groups, although, I still have managed to make some kind of friends. I have made friends on the internet, which is another thing that plays a part with having my Pluto and my Libra in the 11th house of Aquarius, because Aquarius also rules technology, right? So that's online. So there's been a period for the past several years where I've made some of my friends off of the internet, off of social media, bonding over. It started off with being a conspiracy theorist. I made other friends who were conspiracy theorists, and then transitioned from that and got into spirituality. So then I made a lot of friends who were very spiritual. And as I have now kind of moved out of spirituality, just kind of just being or whatnot, I've now started to kind of find others who are more or less on the just being, not into religion or into a quote unquote spirituality type of belief, but just, more holistic, still into like herbs and things like that. Very mindful and very self-conscious. And actually, I've also just, have recently gotten more into my psychology. I have a psychology degree. So I've gotten more into my psychology. I've even recently had myself diagnosed for some mental, I don't want to use the word disability because they're not disabilities, but my neurodivergence, right? So finding out that I am neurodivergent, I've now kind of started making another transition to finding others who are neurodivergent like myself. So I'm now experiencing another shift within my close circle of friends or people that I associate with. And this is also, again, happening online. I'm finding others who are like myself that I can resonate with and share information and learn more about myself. All of this online through, small social groups, different ADHD type groups or personality type groups or just neurodivergent type groups, period. So that's kind of where I am now. So, and this is all, none of this is consciously doing whatsoever. It just happens, and then you realize that it's happening, right? And that's really how astrology works. I can be conscious about placements that I have or what have you. But there's really nothing that I can do about it. It's not until something like, for instance, we had a full moon in Leo just a few days ago. And Leo was natally, or natal, the full moon in Leo was making some squares. So when we look at transits just means, because the sky is always moving, right? The planets are never staying in the same spot. So what that means is the current position of the planets compared to your natal charts. What is the conversation that's happening? So that conversation that was taking place was that Leo full moon was making a lot of squares to my natal planets, because I have a lot of natal planets that are in Scorpio. So it was making a square to that Scorpio, those Scorpio placements. And that, in return, had caused me to be extremely emotional. I felt some things of not being supported by others or what have you. And wasn't aware that that was why I was feeling that way. I had even expressed earlier that day to someone else about these feelings of not being supported or what have you, and the feelings of kind of despair and just internal hurt. It wasn't until later on that evening, because someone had pointed out in a post of their own online, what is this full moon doing for you right now? And I got curious. I said, well, let's see what's going on. And sure enough, that's when I found the squares. And so it was really pointing to literally every single thing that I had expressed that day, every single thing that I said. It was as if somebody had listened to my conversations and wrote down every single thing that I said and said, here, this is what that means. This, and it's like, wow. And just then again, it proved to me that what you were born under, that energy that you embody, is who you are, and it's all the experiences that you will have. It wasn't that I had read earlier in the day that, there's going to be these squares to your moon, your Mercury, your Saturn, and your Uranus, and your South Node. And this is what you're going to experience today. And then I decided, okay, well, let's go with that. That's how I'm feeling today. It was not that. It wasn't until after I had expressed and made it known what I was feeling and said all those things. It wasn't until later that night, that I decided to go back, and it showed to me that was the reason why I was feeling that way, even though I had no idea that is what was taking place. So it had everything to do with the nature end of it. It had absolutely nothing to do with the nurture end of it. I responded and I felt the way that I did because of these squares to my natal planets, not the other way around. And I constantly see this often, not only with just myself, but with others as well. I study people and I'm grateful for those who, I make it known to people when I ask them about their birth information, if I can access their natal chart. They're very much aware that I do keep their information, and I do from time to time go back and visit and look for certain things or whatnot. I study people. It helps me to, as a neurodivergent, it really helps me to understand people and the world around me a lot better. So that's what I do. So I'm grateful for those that do give me their information just so I can satisfy my own curiosity, right? So, but I do see this amongst others all the time and time again. Someone will express something or feel a certain way or have had a certain experience or a certain upbringing or what have you. And then I can go back and I can find exactly what they said, or I can find exactly what they experienced right there in their chart. So again, it's obvious to see that it is nature. You are who you are meant to be, because that's the energy that you embody. You're not the person you're meant to be or are because of what you've experienced. The experience happened because of who you are meant to be, or who you are, right? So, I mean, even think about, for instance, using YouTube, right? You can get on YouTube, because I do it all the time. You can get on YouTube, knowing your chart. Say you're looking at your chart and you have the sun in your first house, and you're curious to know, what is that energy like having sun in my first house? And say your first house is Capricorn. I'm just throwing anything out there. So say your first house is Capricorn. So you want to know, what is it like to have the sun in the first house of Capricorn? And you can find all kinds of information. And then when you're hearing or you're watching this, it's like, yeah, I did have this kind of experience growing up. Oh yeah, that did happen to me. Yes, I do feel that way. Wow, I say that all the time, right? So how is that possible if your environment determined who you are? Then those type of interpretations wouldn't even be possible, or wouldn't even exist, because how you were raised and what you experienced is why you are who you are. And it cannot be tracked to your natal natal positions, your natal chart. It wouldn't be tracked. It couldn't be tracked to that. So it confirms that in order for that even to be a thing, for it to even exist, that it would have to be, these things happened, you said what you said, you felt what you felt, and you experienced what you experienced, because this is the energy in which you embody. This is who you are. So, that's just pretty much my stance on it, and it makes the most sense. Again, just from researching and just from being consciously aware of even what I deal with and what I experience and what others experience and what they deal with. I just see it over and over and over and over again. It's like, yeah, it is definitely nature. It is your chart. It is the energy that you are manifested into that has determined, and also there, within the spiritual community, a lot of people believe that we decided before we even incarnated into this fleshly avatar, that we decided ahead of time what we would experience, because they, feel that this earthly realm is a school, right? You come here to learn so that your soul is able to expand and to ascend to your highest self. So if that's really the case, again, that confirms that it's nature. We decided before we even incarnated here what we were going to be like and what we wanted to experience, so that we could learn from that, we could grow and ascend to our higher selves. So that's just something to think about. I just wanted to put that perspective out there for people to kind of consider and think about. Hopefully it makes sense for everybody else or someone else. If not, that's perfectly fine, because this is, our reality is all perception based, and not everybody's is going to be the same. And that's perfectly okay. But just wanted to put that out there. My argument, again, I solely think it's nature versus nurture. And that's just something, that's just my point of view. Hopefully it resonated. If not, that's okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming to my TED Talk today. Alrighty. Bye.